Hey everyone, this is Jessica Kramer with MRC-TV. I'm outside the Loudoun County School Board meeting talking with parents who say that their children are being segregated for not wearing a mask. Here's what they had to say. We've been hearing that a lot of students are being segregated who aren't wearing masks. Have you heard anything of this?
I have. I've been in touch with a lot of the parents that are activists in the county, and we're basically hearing horror stories about kids that are getting put into rooms. Some of them are being separated from their siblings. They're not being allowed to go to the bathroom. They're not being allowed to go to recess or go to lunch.
We've heard that some maskless students are getting segregated in class. You know, what's going on in the schools?
So we're being told to use separate bathrooms, and that when we cannot go to the bathroom and use water.
Wait, so you're being told to use separate bathrooms, and then what about water?
So we are told when we can use water. So when we ask to go get water, fill our water bottles, or for a water bottle, they say no, you have to wait until the student comes back, or no, it's class change, you have to wait until class starts.
LCPS, Loudoun County Public Schools, has decided to continue on with their own policy, which goes against Governor Youngkin's Executive Order number 2, which says that parents have the right to decide whether students, their children, wear a mask in the schools or not. That was passed, or that was an executive order put into play as of this last Monday, January 24th. So we as free people are, as parents and children, are deciding if our kids are going to wear the mask in the classrooms at school. And they are basically saying, no, we're going against Governor Youngkin's order, and we're going to do what we want.
The board and I did go through this decision. It was not taken lightly, but we looked at both the requirements of Chapter 456 of the Virginia Code and the executive order, and we saw conflict between the two of those. And as has been acknowledged by many news resources this week, we believe those conflicts will need to be resolved by the court. And as they're being figured out in the court, the board supported leaving the mask mandate in place.
Yesterday, some parents had brought some lunch for kids, and there's video on all of this, and they dropped it off at the school and even offered to give some of the administrators some pizza. And the administrator said, well, that's not what we normally do. And the parent asked, is that policy? He said, no, it's practice.
What does that mean?
That means that I guess they have discretion on what they want to do.
Any other experiences of?
I asked to go to the bathroom, and first there was a line, and then when that was cleared, I couldn't go because it was a class change, and I had to wait even longer for that to go, and it's crazy.
Well, tonight we're really fighting for justice for our kids. We're fighting for equal treatment under the law. You know, they say they want to follow the law, they should follow the law. Chapter 456 requires 5 days a week in-person learning. That's what it says, and it's actually in-person, real-time learning with access to their teachers, not stuck in a classroom or an ox gym or an auditorium, stuck on the Chromebooks and trying to do Schoology remotely without giving any access to their teachers at all. Then they limit the access to water and restrooms. The heat's up. Today is freezing. It's just one thing after another. It's really psychologically abusive.
They made it 85 degrees for us, and today they made it 55 degrees. And they made it cold and hot on purpose.
This has reached the level of criminality. If you look at the definition of child abuse, it's emotional, physical, or sexual mistreatment of children. And this qualifies under emotional mistreatment of children. Again, I have a friend that said her third grader went to school without a mask at her mom's request. They wore her down. They kept asking her and asking her. Finally, her daughter came home kind of in tears and said, Mommy,
They're being bullied.
She said, Mommy, I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough for you. That's sad.
Do you guys feel like they are trying to weaken you down and bully you into just submitting and wearing the mask?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
100%.
Anytime you have division by a policy, it's evil.
Yeah.
Mandates are evil.
Yeah.
And they actually are not following their own policy 8250 on bullying and discrimination. They've created a hostile environment.
Yes.
You know, they promise diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Yeah.
and they only deliver conformity, hostility, and class warfare. Right? That's the problem. And so, you know, they promise a welcoming, affirming, inclusive environment, and they get segregation, bullying, and intimidation. They literally are not following their own policy because they can't.
And for the side that acts like they're all super tolerant, it seems that they're not tolerant of parents or kids that don't want to be wearing a cloth over their face the entire time. I mean, when is this going to end? Like, I don't even see them have an end date in mind.
Well, one of the things that I keep reminding people is that this is not going to end until we put a stop to it. Because what we're seeing over the last 2 years with COVID and everything is that every time we step back or we don't hold our line in the sand, more liberties are taken away, more things are happening. Who would have ever thought that in the United States, you need papers to go take your family out to eat, like in New York City?
Yeah.
And
Now DC.
Yeah, in Montgomery County in Maryland, vaccination papers. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to history there that people are kind of not paying attention to or brushing off and thinking, well, no, that's really not what's happening. It is happening.
The biggest thing that upsets me is that we are following the executive order, and my students, my 2 daughters in high school, and they did go to school without a mask. They're holding their ground. I'm so proud of them. But they were told to go to a separate room and just do the best you can. And they specifically said, who will be teaching us today? And the principal said, we're doing the best we can. They were told to go online to the Schoology platform and find their work and do the same work as the kids were doing in class, and nothing was posted. My daughters have been emailing the teachers. Some reply, some do not. So they're sitting there doing nothing, and they're not getting the same education as kids who are masked.
Do you guys say anything to your teachers about this? Have you expressed anything to people at school?
Yeah, many people like Emma have spoken out to the teachers and said, okay, well, what about this? Like, what about our 5-day in-person, like, teaching our school class, like, our lessons? And they're like, oh, well, we've never heard about that. Like, what are you even talking about? And there's many other students who are just very upset with this.
So we're fighting for equal treatment under the law. There's even recent guidance last week from their own VDH, the Virginia Department of Health, and the VDOE that came out just last week on Friday with new guidance on masking, which they're not even following. They're actually, the new guidance says that unmasked, healthy students should not be treated any differently than healthy masked students. It actually says that on page 6 of the guidance from their own VDH. So we're encouraging our school board members and Superintendent Ziegler and everybody to actually apply the law. That's what we're hoping for.
They really did awake a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
We have a lot of very educated, very industrious parents here in Loudoun County, and we are learning the law letter by letter so that we know what we can use against the school board, the board of supervisors, and the town councils, because that's what they're using against us. They're using the law.